Shields up, Ironbreakers. Brookan here coming at you with another video. Welcome back to Monster Hunter Rise, and today I want to talk about player expectations in the Monster Hunter community. The reasoning behind that is because I've seen a lot of social media posts, I've seen a lot of comments on my videos, I've gotten a lot of feedback during my live streams that clearly indicate to me that there is a disconnect in a portion of the community between what they expected from Monster Hunter Rise and what they got from Monster Hunter Rise. And therefore, the title. Monster Hunter Rise is not a live service game. As a matter of fact, traditional Monster Hunter entries have never been live service games. And I say traditional because there are a couple exceptions to the rule, like Monster Hunter Frontier and Monster Hunter Online, which were clearly designed with a live service game business model in mind. But those are exceptions that were only really present in the Asian market, and you can only access them through VPNs and stuff like that. So I personally never got to play those games. I probably would have played them a big chunk, but I've never been one to like, oh, I need to like figure out how to, translate this thing and get like an Asian address and mod this thing with a language pack. I was like, nah, dude, I'm not going through that much trouble. Like, I really want to play it, but I'm not going to go through all of this trouble of going through VPNs and getting social security numbers and whatnot. It's never really been my thing. I have, however, considered learning Japanese in order to get to play Monster Hunter games earlier. Luckily, it doesn't seem like I'll have to go through that since the last two entries have been simultaneous releases worldwide. Thank God for that. But let's talk a little bit more about this. Like, people expected more from Update 3.0, and I count myself among those people. I've said it plenty of times. I expected Update 3.0 to be significantly more meaty than it was. And the reasoning behind that is because of how much content we actually got from Update 2.0, which was a lot. I mean, we got like 3 Elder Dragons, we got some more stuff. I don't even remember exactly everything. We got like 2 new Apexes, we got a bunch of new stuff added to the weapon tree. There was a lot of content, a lot of stuff to do, and it completely shook up the meta. So I was very much expecting 3.0 to also shake up the meta. It didn't. Like, it brought in a couple of new interesting things, like the Volstrax armor can do some interesting stuff that I haven't really talked about here in the channel. I will eventually do a post talking about that. Naturally, there's also the new Rampage weapons, and there's some more upgrades to some of the weapons that were brought in the previous update. There's a lot of stuff that got added, but it wasn't as much in terms of sheer volume. But it did add something that I really, really wanted, which was more challenging quests. And we definitely got that with some of the Apexes. We got that with Volstrax, and, we got a little bit more challenge added into the game, which I really appreciated, including even the final boss fight, which the very first time I did it, I was like, Jesus Christ, what the hell is going on? I actually failed that quest the first time that I did it, and it was a good feeling because, you're like, oh, you like failing quests? It's like, no, I like being challenged in quests, which if I have one huge complaint about Rise is that I still feel that it is easy. And this was something that I talked about at the start before Rise even came out. I was like, I don't know how they're going to balance this game with the amount of agility that we have, because once we master the agility of the wire bug, it's going to be completely insane. But that's kind of like a topic for a different video. I'm already going off on tangents and stuff. But, the sense that I've been getting from the community is that there's a lot of people disappointed. And I did do a poll about this because I was like, man, I see so many comments of people just complaining about it. And I did a poll asking people what they thought about Update 3.0. And I don't know what that poll is at right now because I didn't pull it up ahead of recording this video. But last time that I checked, it was like 42% or something like that of people that thought the update was excellent. And then it was like 40 something else percent of people that thought it was okay. I know that it was more people that thought it was okay than people who thought that it was excellent. And then there was like 11% or something like that of people that were disappointed. So I don't want to just flat out say, okay, you guys are in minority, I don't care. It's like, I think it is important to talk about these things. I think it is important to hash out so that people understand what to expect from Monster Hunter games in the future, because I do understand that we've had a massive growth in the community, because a lot of people join in for Monster Hunter World, and even more people, not even more, but like newer people also joined in with Monster Hunter Rise, which, it was a big growth in the community. And I've seen this in some of the games that I tend to play. Like I always tell you guys about the Dark Souls 2 exponential growth, which was also like insane. The amount of people that joined the Souls community after the first Dark Souls was crazy. And I always love having new people jump into these games, but it is important that people understand what they're getting into. Now with Monster Hunter World, I feel like Capcom kind of straddled the line between what is a live service and what is like just a regular game like the previous Monster Hunter games. Because you need to understand, Monster Hunter games have always been that game that you play until you feel like you had enough, and then you stop and you move on. And you wait until they release the next one, or you play something else until the next Monster Hunter game comes along. I'm the kind of guy that is like, I enjoy playing multiple games, and I understand that this is not an option for everyone. A lot of people will want to play one game because, you know, they can't afford to buy too many games in a single year. I completely understand this. This is very much a valid point. But to have a lot of people say that Monster Hunter Rise is not worth it, which I have seen, I think that maybe you're pushing that a little bit too far. Because I mean, pretty much anyone that I know in real life that has played through Monster Hunter Rise, they all enjoyed it. Like even a friend of mine that was playing through Rise for the very first time, and you know he's played through the updates, and I've been playing with him, and it's been a blast. He said, "Dude, this is incredible value. Like I love this game. Like I don't regret having started with this at all. This was amazing. Like this was very much his first time with Monster Hunter, and he loved it." And I understand that some of the veterans maybe expected more, but the fact of the matter is, you know, Capcom is working on other titles. They're also working on the next Monster Hunter, the follow-up to Monster Hunter World. They're working on that. They're working on the ultimate version for Monster Hunter Rise, which, by the way, for those of you that, there's people that still don't know that there's an ultimate version for Monster Hunter Rise coming out. Like, 99% sure there's an ultimate version, okay? And some people get this confused. They're like, but what is an ultimate version? Like, how does this work? Because there's a lot of people that still don't know what the model is like. And the way that it works is that, you guys remember how we got Monster Hunter World and then we got Iceborne? Iceborne, for all intents and purposes, was the ultimate edition of Monster Hunter World. If you remember, there was a disc version of it, or even like a deluxe version, not a deluxe, but like a version that you could buy online, that was the Master Edition. The Master Edition of Monster Hunter World, which contained Monster Hunter World and Iceborne. That in its essence is an ultimate edition. For those of you that don't understand, that's always how Monster Hunter has worked, with the exception of Portable Third. Portable Third was the only title that did not get an ultimate edition. So how does this work? Eventually, when the ultimate edition comes out, you're going to be able to import this save that you have in this base version of Monster Hunter. You'll probably be able to patch it just like they did for Iceborne. Like you'll just be able to apply a patch and boom, done. Because that's kind of the way that things are going to be working forward. At least that's what I would expect. And you're going to have pretty much, you know, another chunk of content that is going to rival the amount of content that you got in Monster Hunter Rise. Now I'd expect that to come either next year or the other one after that, but most likely I would say next year. I would expect maybe holiday 2022 is when we would see Rise Ultimate. And that's kind of like when you're going to get another big chunk of gameplay. I don't see us getting a whole lot more for Rise. I mean, we might get something after August, because all of the stuff that they talked about in the roadmap was just event quests, and event quests don't usually bring new monsters to them. There's going to be some collaborations with Capcom titles. Those could potentially bring some quirky monsters in. They did some of that with collaborations in World. Like you guys remember, they collaborated with Final Fantasy XIV, which brought us Behemoth. They collaborated with Witcher, which brought us Leshen. And, you know, there's the potential for them to bring monsters from other Capcom franchises. Like, personally, I would very much like to see a Dragon's Dogma collab. I've talked about this at length. Both me and Gaijin talked about this. But you know, we don't know exactly what those collabs are going to be. There's going to be some collabs, obviously, around Monster Hunter Stories 2, as we've talked about as well. But, you know, until the end of August, kind of what you have with 3.0 is what you're going to get. And I see a lot of people constantly reference, you know, World's Endgame was better. And I'll give you something. I'll give you that Tempered Monsters was cool because there was more of them. Whereas Apex monsters in Monster Hunter Rise, there's not that many. I'm actually thinking about how many there are. We got Urzuros, we got Mizu, we got Rathian, Rathalos, Diablos, and Zenogre. There's six Apex monsters. it's not really that much, considering that the game has a roster of like, what, over 40 monsters at this point. I would love to see a lot more Apex monsters, and maybe we'll get them. I don't know if we will or we will not. I'm not really going to be holding my breath, because considering that they're already souping things up all the way up to Zinogre, it's going to get hard for them to go too much above that. I mean, sure, you could start going Apex Crimson Glow Volstrax. Like, I don't know if that's something that they want to do, because Volstrax already hits crazy hard. Although, you know, I know that that is what a lot of the player base wants, so maybe it'll happen. Like, for those of you that are not aware, Fatalis was not something that they initially considered for Iceborne. The reason Fatalis, you know, ended up being the final bit of content for Iceborne was because there was a lot of demand from the community on account of the fact that they did this art piece and it had a Fatalis featured in this art piece to celebrate like some anniversary of Monster Hunter, and people like got super excited about it, and they were like, well, I guess we have to bring Fatalis to the game now. That's kind of what happened. So, you know, the more people ask for new things in the game, the higher the chance it is that we'll get them. But don't always expect these things to come. Like, I think we have to be reasonable in terms of like what to expect from the game. Like I said, I myself expected more. But if there's not more, am I going to go out and say, oh man, game sucks, there's not enough content? It's like, what are you talking about? I have 500 hours in this game. And I know that I'm a content creator, so naturally I'm going to have more hours than the average player, right? But still, I would assume that anyone who even just like, if you just rush through the entirety of the content, I mean rush, like if you just book it all the way from beginning of the game to like 3.0, potentially even skipping cinematics, you're still looking at around 80 hours of content. And this is skipping cinematics, okay? Depending on your level of skill, you might be able to do it faster if you actually know what you're doing and whatnot. But still, that's a lot. That is a lot of hours. Now, naturally, in previous games, we had more. Like you look at GU, for instance, I haven't done everything there is to do in GU. And I have like, what, 600 hours in that game? I don't know, some ridiculous amount of hours. But then again, it also depends on what you're doing, because like doing mixed sets in GU is a little bit more complicated. You're going to have to hunt for more things. Doing mixed sets in Rise is a lot easier. You can look at the skills and you can be like, okay, I want this thing, that thing, boom, do a shopping list, go in there. They made it easier for you to upgrade weapons, which initially I didn't really see it that much easier. But now that I'm looking through it, I'm like, yeah, I guess it is a little bit easier, considering that I can craft a weapon pretty damn fast, even easier than World potentially. The biggest challenge at the start was getting the orbs, I guess, which some people are still having trouble getting orbs, and I can understand RNG is a fickle mistress, but you know, and desire sensor is going to get to everybody. But ultimately, you can get your objectives done a lot faster, and they removed a lot of the things that were busy work in previous games. There's not as nearly as many fetch quests in Rise, which makes it faster for you to go through the game. Which means that you finish the game faster, and you can either grind for different weapons if that is something that you want, or you can move on to another game. And it's like, I don't want Monster Hunter to become a live service. I'm not sure if this is what the community wants, and I'm curious to hear from you guys. Do you want? I'm probably going to do a poll in the channel, actually. Would you like Monster Hunter to become a live service? I'll do a poll about that, because I'm actually very curious about what the results of that would be, because again, that is the sentiment that I get from the community. And it makes me wonder, so would you like Monster Hunter to have a business model kind of like Destiny? Is that what you want? Like a Destiny-like experience where they kind of like gate the amount of things that you can get on a per week basis. And then they also gated your XP for that one time that I never forgot, never gonna let it go. Like, you know, but basically they gate the experience for you along the way. Do you want something like a World of Warcraft, which is pretty much a free-to-play game that you pay for and pay a monthly fee for, even though it has all of the makings of a free-to-play game, including even pay to win? Which, by the way, if you play WoW and you're still deluding yourself thinking the game is not pay to win, it's like, I don't know what to tell you. But, you know, this is not that. Monster Hunter has never been that. The beauty of Monster Hunter is that I can just play it at my own pace. I can get everything that I want whenever I want. And I'm not on anyone's schedule. Like, again, this was something that World did. World did the whole thing about like, oh, this week we have an event week, so this is special, and there's going to be limited time things that you can only get this week. And interestingly enough, a lot of the community didn't actually like those, including myself. Like, sure, I liked interacting with the event, but I didn't like the aspect of not being able to get the things from the event when the event was over. So, you know, it's like there's always it's always a double-edged sword that when you start diving into a business model. I even remember that video that I made making fun of that post on Reddit that someone wanted a battle pass for Monster Hunter. And I'm just like, what are you talking about? It's never been that kind of a game. And here's the thing, as a content creator, I would only have to benefit from that because, you know, I'd have content for years to come by just, you know, them adding some menial thing along every week and whatnot, and I'd make my videos about the menial. But I much prefer the fact that they evolve the games as opposed to milking them dry. So many people expected Iceborne to then have another expansion. People were saying, oh, I can't wait for the Fireborne expansion. I was like, that's not happening. That's never going to happen. They're like, you're crazy. Did you see the success this game has? They're definitely going to do more expansions. Going to, you know, and eventually a battle pass potentially and all of these things. I'm just like, no, because that's not what it's about. People really want I feel like people have been conditioned to expect this of video games, to expect the kind of recurring live service business model. And it bothers me because that actually stifles creativity. Look at the state that World of Warcraft is in right now. And I'm speaking as someone who for a good portion of his life only played World of Warcraft. Look at the state it's in right now. It's terrible. It's in shambles. It is a disgusting disappointment of what it used to be. Because they're just focusing on the monetization, whereas Monster Hunter is actually focusing on the next step. Right now, the team is hands down focused on Monster Hunter Rise Ultimate. One of the teams. Another team will be focused on, you know, finishing up Monster Hunter Stories 2. And another team is focusing on developing Monster Hunter World 2. I mean, I call it Monster Hunter World 2. It's going to have a different name, 100%. It's going to be something completely different. But you guys get the idea. They're focusing on the next thing that is going to be coming from Monster Hunter. And I think that this is a good thing. Because, you know, for starters, it gives you time to play other games if you can afford to do so, which is good because it respects your time. And then you can come back to the next Monster Hunter game refreshed. But I get this feeling that I'm kind of like alone in this sentiment, that people would rather play Rise, you know, until like 3 years from now, they would rather be playing Rise, or potentially 3 years from now, they would rather be playing Monster Hunter World still. And that would make the game stale. Like the reason Monster Hunter games constantly build upon their formula is because they make new games. Like the reason the Wirebug exists is because they made Monster Hunter Rise. The reason they made Monster Hunter Rise is because they didn't continue making Monster Hunter World. I don't know how else to explain this. Like, you know, people always bring up the end game of World. And like I said, I'll give you the Tempered Monsters. Tempered Monsters would have been amazing. More Apex monsters would be like the rough equivalent in Rise, which maybe we'll still get. I don't know. But the Kolv to Roth grind? Do people really want the Kolv to Roth grind? Good God. Like, don't get me wrong, I love the Kolv to Roth fight. I thought it was amazing. But after doing nothing but Kolv to Roth for 2 straight weeks to get my first white shelling gunlance, you're crazy. You're insane. I never wanted to do Kolv to Roth ever again in my whole goddamn life. And then I did Kolv to Roth again in Master Rank a couple of times, but at least then it was a little bit faster. And the same thing for Safi Jiva. The Safi Jiva fight was amazing. The fact that I had to grind Safi Jiva for God knows how long because it had basically the best weapons in the whole goddamn game was terrible. It was bad. And I don't know if that's what people wanted, you know? Some people said, oh, I preferred grinding hunts for decorations. No! How many of you did not get the decorations that you needed? I didn't. I didn't get all the decorations that I needed. I made do with the decorations that I've got, but I definitely didn't get all the ones that I needed. Hell, I never even got a shield up, a guard up jewel on PC. Never. And I did tons of investigations on PC. I didn't get a single drop. That is terrible. The guy's like, oh, but now we need God tier charms. Yeah, it's one piece. It's one piece, and you can do most builds with 2 tier 2 slots in a charm, which at this point you'll have plenty of those already. So it's like, I just don't see it. I guess I disagree with some of that stuff, but I'm very curious to hear from you guys. You know, I think that the best thing for Monster Hunter is to keep evolving the way that it has been doing because it gives us unique experiences like the one we got for Monster Hunter Rise. But clearly a lot of people disagree with that, and I'm curious to hear more, but please do try to keep it civil, because a lot of times I go through these comments and people are just like frothing at the mouth, typing in all caps like, I hate Capcom. And it's like, I'm not even going to entertain those types of comments, because, you know, I've found that at this stage of my life, I got better things to do than read people frothing at the mouth comments. I usually just like hide user from channel, forever, gone, bye. I just don't have the time. I'd rather be creating new content or playing video games. Anyway, that is going to be it. If you guys enjoyed this video, hit it up with a like. If you did not enjoy this video, hit it up with a dislike. Feedback is important. If you usually enjoy my content, subscribe, bell notification icon, all of that good stuff. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Stay strong, stay safe, peace out.